Hey there, it's Lorraine here. I'm going to walk us through a bit of a process step for how I extract thoughts and information and pieces of the analysis from stakeholder interviews for materiality assessments. And I'm going to use the JBS assessment that I'm in progress in right now because I'm in the midst of conducting a bunch of assessments, and I realized that I've been learning as I go, and I've learned some stuff that I find really helpful. So I thought I'll just take us backstage. Why is this helpful, and what am I learning? So going to slide 27, which is in the draft deck right now, where the stakeholder perspectives are being placed. And what I'll do is just show you a bit of how I'm producing them, but then why is that useful in terms of extracting ideas and perspective? So I'm going to take us first backstage in the interview with Christophe Jospé. And this is the YouTube, this is my YouTube channel, and I'm the only one who can access it. So I'm going to just show you a bit of backstage. You could do this in your own YouTube channel if you have one. And I'm actually finding this technology to be really, really helpful. And it's free, right? Like this is part of the G Suite. There are all kinds of transcribing tools out there. I've dabbled with a few of them, but the process I'm about to show you, well, it's a bit kind of hands-on. I'm finding it really useful for getting deeper on the insights that come out of videos. So once a video is uploaded to the system, it can sometimes take a little while depending on the length of it, but let me just get out of the way here. You can click on subtitles. So let me go to my main channel. And then when I pick a particular video, which in this case, I'm picking the stakeholder interview with Christophe Jospé, I go into subtitles, that's what's highlighted here. And after a bit of processing, you have these two options. If you first go in, you might only see one row and you can't do anything with them. But go back in a few hours or the next day and you'll see this option to edit. And the reason this is useful is because these transcriptions, which by the way equal the subtitles that YouTube automatically generates, they're kind of riddled with errors. They're usually pretty okay errors that a listener or watcher could figure out for themselves. But sometimes they're actually not okay. They're wrong. It's confusing. And so if you were relying on the words as you're watching the video, that would be a problem. If you were relying on the words for a translation, because English isn't your first language and you want this in another language, that would be an even greater problem, I would suggest. And for the way I produce these, and I'll take us over into another document in a sec, it's a problem in the written transcript. So I want to just highlight here, you have the option to edit as a block of text, and you can sort of roll the tape. Okay, and you can see where the text is appearing. So I happen to know I'm at the beginning, and you can also just hop around. You can toggle between edit timings, edit as text, and then you have the option to have it as a block of text or broken out by timing. And there may be reasons you want to adjust there. I typically stay in this block of text. There's no punctuation. It's not pretty, but I make sure that it's correct as best as I am able. And then I highlight it and I copy it. And I go over into a Google Doc. And here I drop the whole block, and I've already pasted this. This is just an unedited block of text. Now this is not very readable. So I could just leave it like that. I could say, I'm tired. I fell off my bike earlier today. My thoughts are a bit jumbled. I've been biking like mad to try to get some errands done and a bunch of other things. I don't want to edit this. But then, by the way, I'm fine. It was a bit of a tumble, but it was a good tumble. It was a clean fall, and I think I bruised my knee a bit, but I'm back up. But anyway, these are not very readable documents. You could search on them, but you can't even tell, like if I just drop it in, there's no attribution, who's speaking, who's saying what. So let me show you how. I haven't done this one yet. This is live. It will be, it's Tuesday in February. Don't make me say which day. This is going to be done and properly edited soon. What will it look like when it's like that? Well, let's go to one of the ones that is ready now. So Bill Bowie, I already finished producing his interview. Here's the live video. I haven't quite figured out. It keeps starting in the middle. I probably have to adjust something there, which I did. I do know that when you share, you can say where to share. Let me just see if I can correct that on the fly here. I will go back in and we'll see if that works, and you will see if I have succeeded. But what I really want to show you here is in the show notes for Bill's video. There's links that I mention in the video itself as we're talking. Oh, I'll make sure there's a link to that. Here it is. This goes back to that JBS presentation. This is the audio version. So there's a SoundCloud version that people can listen to as a podcast. And actually, people have been listening to those. That's probably where there's been, a surprising amount, like several dozens. I should tally it up, but I think over time, including the Google, TD Bank, and Danone assessments, there have been hundreds of listens to stakeholder interviews, which I find really encouraging. But then we have the written transcript. And in my humble opinion, this is a highly useful document. Now let's get to extracting insights, because you might be wondering, why, Lorraine, why is this a highly useful document? So I'm going to tell you the answer to that question. With Bill's, I've already dropped in the block of text, and then I've started to attribute, okay, who's saying what? Here it's me speaking, then it's Bill, then it's me. There's a series of questions that I ask every single stakeholder, and they're all placed in here, and they're time-stamped. So you can go chunk by chunk and see what the person has said. In fact, if you want to know why they put a person, a company where they rank them, because as we can see, Bill suggested that I put the bubble here. And if you want to see why, you can just go right to the materiality ranking and listen to Bill's explanation. You can agree or disagree. I still haven't told you why this is useful for me doing the assessment versus somebody watching or diving into the assessment itself. Well, what I have found is by going through the edits, so literally going word by word, listening again to the interview, and I listen to it at the real pace. I don't speed it up. There have been times where I've sped up a little chunk because I've already been through it, but for the most part, I'm listening to the conversation again, which as the interviewer, I'd like to think I'm paying attention during the real thing, but I'm also doing other things, right? I'm setting us up for the next conversation. I'm making sure we stay on time. I'm doing my best to look after my interviewee. Well, now I'm in analysis mode, and that's a different mode. And there's nothing else going on. I'm just listening to the conversation and correcting the text as I go. That is one round of pretty deep listening, like, oh, right, okay. And I'm also typically hearing these after having had a couple more interviews, so they're starting to pile in. And then when I'm over in the Google Doc and parsing it and attributing words to speakers, I'm listening to it again. And what typically happens is when I'm in the video word edit mode and I'm actually hearing the voices, once again, those insights really jump out and I realize like, wow, this is a really salient point this person is saying, or they're saying something quite definitive and useful, maybe contradicting what somebody else has said, or maybe really making a clear point, clarifying something that's otherwise difficult or more technical that people might not know, that I might not have known, etc. So as I go through here, I end up lifting out what I think of as sort of salient sound bites. Of course, there's all kinds of interesting stuff in these transcripts, but there are typically a few points that really sort of land and are quite insightful and useful. And so I just start to pull them out. For the moment, these are just like placeholder slides with quotes. You may remember that in the Danone assessment, right near the top, I highlight, these green boxes are thoughts from stakeholders. And then throughout the assessment, I include, from time to time, let me pull some up here, thoughts from stakeholders. So the logic behind pulling these salient thoughts here is that as I go building the overall themes and making hopefully some useful observations for anybody who might take a look at this assessment, I also have already pulled out the stakeholder comments and I have them handy. And if I am looking at this, let's say, so Chris Sason had some really interesting, really, really thoughtful ideas about the future. And also she and Christoph had some very comparable comments. So I'm really looking forward to pulling those together and doing some more thinking and analyzing there. But let's say, for instance, I'm looking at this and I'm remembering because I've put it here and it's handy, but I'm like, oh wait, I just want to get the wider context on that. Or somebody else is looking at this and they want to get the wider context on that. They can simply go into Chris's, and in Chris's case, there is no video. There's just SoundCloud and written transcript. And if somebody's like, well, what was that point about the Zapatistas that she was making? They can simply do a find, and there it is, and the full context is there. So lots more I could say about how these interviews are valuable, but I just wanted to do that quick backstage about making sure the words are correct so that the AI and these free interactive tools like YouTube and other things within the G Suite don't accidentally attribute things that people didn't say, and then turning it into a more readable text-based document, which has various uses depending on how we're coming at it, and then pulling out things that really jump out at me as salient and starting to lay them into the assessment document so that I can fold them into observations. So it's not just what I think, it's supported by or influenced by or countered by what other people think. I hope that's a useful process backstage journey, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, comments, or suggestions. Thanks.